Okay guys, first thing we're going to go through, or what we're going to go through today, is the FEPS, which stands for Firefighter Extraction Pulley System. This system is a backup to the Denver drill. And the Denver drill is our traditional way of extracting a downed firefighter when we're working in a confined or restricted area. The FEPS, anyone that's practiced the Denver drill knows that it's a very physically demanding tactic. There's a bunch of variations to it, 2 and 3 firefighter techniques, but there still are a lot of firefighters out there that really struggle with it. And if you get that really heavy firefighter, depending on what your physical capability is as an individual, you may really struggle with it. So the FEPS is just an alternative to the Denver drill. Actually, it has additional applications outside of a downed firefighter. It can be used for civilian. We've actually used it to lower somebody who was up in a tree that was cutting a tree branch, hit him, knocked him unconscious. We use the FEPS with a ground ladder to lower him out. So it has more than one application. The FEPS, the way we have it set up, is 150 feet of half-inch static kernmantle rope. We have a couple components attached to it, and I'm going to go through them right now. 150 feet allows us to deploy the FEPS from as low as a basement window all the way up to a 5th story, depending on the height between floors. We have 2 extra large carabiners. This strap just holds the system together and keeps it nice and compact. If you can't see this, let me know. The carabiners are marked for their location. This one's top rung, this one's second rung, this is Firefighter SCBA. This is our top anchor point. This is our change of direction pulley. We go with 2-inch pulleys to keep the system compact. We used to have 4-inch. It doesn't seem like a lot, but when you add 4-inch to 4-inch, it's 8-inch. You start almost getting to a foot, an additional foot to your system. So we go with 2-inch. These are NFPA 1983 rope rescue general use pulleys, so they're heavy duty. So change of direction here, and this is the pulley that goes to the firefighter, which creates a mechanical advantage. In other words, it's 2 to 1. So in theory, minus the friction, we take a 300-pound firefighter with all their equipment, and we're cutting it down to 150. Realistically, it's higher than that with the friction of the rope and the pulleys, but it gives you a perspective of what we're trying to accomplish. This length of webbing is used when we cannot connect the carabiner directly to the SCBA. Some new SCBA have that anchor attachment right on the top of the harness. The new MSA has that, that's rated at 1,000 pounds. But Scott, some of the other ones, Dragers, don't have that. So we use this to wrap the shoulder straps of the victim's SCBA. When the integrity of the SCBA is sound, we can trust it as a harness. And there's ways to convert it to make it stronger. So that's our option there. This 9-foot webbing loop, again, made from a 20-foot length of 1-inch tubular webbing rated at 4,000 pounds. A 9-foot length allows us to create a full body harness on the victim fairly rapidly, not as efficiently with 1 person as it is with 3, but it's our contingency plan when we don't trust the SCBA, it's been compromised, it's entangled, we may have to cut them free, then we can put a Hasty harness on the victim and attach the carabiner directly to that. Now we have a full body harness that we don't have to worry about the victim rotating out of. Some of the arguments against the FEPS, or Firefighter Extraction Pulley System. The truists, the ones that are hardcore, awesome at the Denver drill, and the guys that came up with it because of Mark Langford, those guys are phenomenal, but there are a lot of other departments that are really good at the Denver drill. Some of the arguments against it is that it takes time. It takes time to set up and deploy. What we've tried to do is address that argument by having a pre-set up, a system ready for rapid deployment by having it all together. That saves us some time. The other argument against the FEPS is that we are, in essence, creating a high point anchor system to attach this to pull the victim out. Well, when you do that, you're typically using a ground ladder, but we can use an aerial ladder. We could use a tower ladder if somebody's trapped on a roof or in a location where we can't get a ground ladder. That's an option, but once we raise the ladder up above the window, whoever went in to make entry now is stranded without an egress. Normally when we do a traditional Denver drill or ladder rescue, the ladder is placed at the base of the sill. We lift the victim out, we carry him down the ladder, and we've opened up an avenue that if things go south, conditions start to deteriorate, heavy smoke, you're running out of air, flash over conditions, you can do a head-first ladder bail and get out because the ladder's right there. Now we bring the ladder up over the base of the sill and we try to go as high as possible. That avenue's gone. So how do we address that? Well, all of us carry escape systems, different types on the department. Some have their own. We also have the ones that are issued by the department. But by carrying an escape system, you still have an avenue for egress. And I'm going to show that at the end. Once we get the firefighter out and we're starting to lower them down, we get them down to the ground, we'll say things went south real quick. We don't have time to reposition the ladder. I'm going to show you how an escape system can be deployed, and I can exit and save myself once I've extracted the firefighter. Set the firefighter up. I got access to the shoulder straps. I'm coming underneath both of them. I'm coming back to the carabiner. Locked off. Tighten them down as much as I can. Get on the other side of the victim. All slow. Hold. Watch the head. I can grab the legs and get him at his pivot point, push the head out. It's getting hot, I'm gonna have to deploy, lower him down. I'm coming in, non-pre-attached system. He's there. That's my anchor. I'm good. Held down. I'm out in seconds right after the bit. Try to split the carabiners, so we split the rungs. Remember, a ladder rung, compression strength on a ladder rung is rated at 1,000 pounds. We try to keep these attachments centered, and by splitting them, we share the load a little bit, because the load does get increased when we're using change of direction pulleys depending on the angles. I don't want to get too technical here, but that's why we do it. So the system that you see here, this is the firefighter bailout wall. What's nice about the setup here is that I don't need a 2, 3, 4-story structure to practice FEPS. I plug in the Denver drill attachment hallway on the back. I keep the front face of the window prop in line with the exterior of the apparatus bay. And what it's going to allow me to do is, I have my short ladder for initial access. I go on, I do my assessment, that ladder gets removed. I bring in my 24, I raise it, create my elevated anchor point, and you can practice this right here at your training. Your training right here at the firehouse and not have to look at an acquired structure, or for us to have to go out to the FTC. So it's a convenient way to practice this, a nice safe way to practice it when we incorporate the bailout, because I don't have to establish a belay line. I just throw in some fall protection, the mattress in this case, okay, or commercially made mat, and we're good to go. So this angle is just to give you a perspective of how we're attaching into the victim. A couple different ways. Again, if I trust the integrity of the harness, that's what I'm going to hook into. It's just my fastest way to get this firefighter out. We talked about this morning. When a firefighter's down, unconscious, if we can't hear air exchange through the face piece, exhalation in other words, we can't do the traditional look, listen, and feel, check for chest rise, we're just making the assumption this firefighter could be in full cardiac arrest. So we have the 4 to 6 minute window to get them out to ALS intervention. If we spend too much time inside, they're not breathing, they have no pulse, we're gonna transition into clinical death and then biological death, and our chances for a rescue go down proportionately. So I got to keep that in mind. The fastest I can get this firefighter out, the better. So yeah, do we infringe a little bit on some safety parameters? Not having 2 ropes, not having brakes, all that? Yeah, sure. But just keep that in mind. So if I can't attach directly into the SCBA, like I said, on the new Vulcan harness for MSA, there's that little carabiner attachment. Even though I got to stress this, it's important for everyone to understand that these are not rated as a harness. So we do transition out of the safety realm when we hook into a harness. And they have been known to fail. Straps have blown out, etc. That's why this is our backup plan. But if you really got to rock and roll, it's an option. Just make sure you trust the integrity of the SCBA. You check everything, you tighten everything down, make sure nothing's going to bust. If I can't take the carabiner and hook right into that portion, anywhere up here on the SCBA, realize you got a pretty good shot of that. I take the strap, and you can encompass everything. Low pressure, high pressure, shoulder straps, it really doesn't matter. I'm going to come around all of them. That's why this is a longer strap. I clip in and I lock off, and now I've enclosed the SCBA straps. Now I'm going to spin this victim. This one's going to be a little, and you can keep it rolling, Rosie. If you have the time, you have the room, it is recommended that we convert the SCBA strap. The advantage to that is it encompasses the legs, it makes it into more of a full body harness. We have done studies on this though. If you can crank down the waist strap as tight as you can make it, to the point if you were conscious it would be uncomfortably tight, it is effective for vertical extraction. But a lot of firefighters, a lot of instructors, written instructors, they talk about the SCBA conversion. If the victim, if you don't trust this, you want to pull on a strap and it pops or releases, any one of these, the waist strap, which is an essential element obviously as you see here, if that breaks, then we have no choice. Then we have to do the Hasty harness. I'll try to do that really quickly for a review on the Hasty. Remember, it's best done. This is best done with 3 people. A lot of different ways to store your webbing. This is a double up daisy chain. You can do a straight roll, stuff it in your pocket, whatever works best for you. This is a 9-foot loop made from a 20-foot length of 1-inch tubular. So this is attached with the FEPS. If I'm working solo, I'm going to deploy it. Okay, so one method for attaching the full body onto the victim, come about mid-thigh. You just make a big loop. Mid-thigh, you're going to cross one over. You want the knot right in between the legs. That's your center point, so you keep it out of the way. Your X is right by the knot. You take the lower loop, you come underneath one leg. Lower loop, come underneath the other leg. And if you want variations to this, go on YouTube, search it some more. You'll find a ton of different variations to this, incorporating just one leg and doing an L wrap with a 6 hitch on the chest. That's another option. So there's that first X. Excuse me, first X in between the legs. I make a second X. I come up and I compass, in this case, the left. Same thing, here it is. First X is in between the legs. Another cross on this side, and I capture the arms, chest, and shoulders. I'm going to sit the firefighter up, and now I'll spin him again, Rusty, so you can see him. This guy's about 2 bills, so he's somewhat close. Now normally I'd stay behind the firefighter, but now what I'm going to do is and what the beauty of this, guys, is you don't have to take off the SCBA, you go right around it. So now I'm coming in from behind. If I got a lot of extra webbing, I'm going to do a shoelace tie. In essence, it ends up being a square knot. That's a true square knot. And then I would take this carabiner right here and attach into these loops and lock off. I don't even have to worry about this. If you have the really, really big firefighter, the one that's 6'8", 350 pounds, 400 with gear, and you don't have enough, and you're right at the end, you can just bring the 2 together and clip in. But anytime you can, even if you can just get one wrap, do one wrap. But we always clip into the dog ears or rabbit ears, whatever you want to call them, as a safety. When I'm pre-setting this up, all this excess will be stuffed in the bag. Here's my system. Carabiners are all the way open. Remember, a lot of times there's pins on the carabiner, which means you can cinch down the gate. In this case, these are twist locks. You can cinch them down to that little pin. You probably can't see that, Rusty, but that's what it would allow us to do. This one stays open as well, so all the carabiners in a fully open position. I take this short strap and I wrap all 3 links. Remember, when this is fully deployed, it splits the system into thirds. I take the big loop, that's important, so I can get it with a gloved hand over the top. Now I can carry the whole system up like this, clip into my the rungs that I need to, grab this, free it up, pass this down to the firefighter, the rescuer inside. So that's where some of the speed and the efficiency of deployment comes in, is setting this up for a rapid deployment. We're going to talk about a couple options for deployment. And what I mean by that, it's all going to depend on the configuration, the construction of the building, and the adjacent exposures, if there is any. In other words, if I have 2 buildings like we have on the east side of town, where they might be 2, 3, 4, 5 feet away only, then my ladder needs to stay more vertical, and my haul team is going to stay much closer to the building. We just have to be careful that we're not in the impact zone of the victim being pulled out. If and you got to go hand over hand to haul, which makes it more difficult. We'll show that the second time. If I have unrestricted distance away from my target point, my target objective, away from the building, then I'm going to go with my system on the outside of the ladder. It reduces the friction. It allows me to go with a greater angle on my change of direction pulley, which reduces the weight on the ladder. That's some of the technical elements of this setup. A greater change of direction angle reduces the stress on that anchor point for your change of direction pulley. So I'm going to go farther away, and all I got to do is just grab the rope. One guy in the back can wrap their hips. It's just creates additional resistance. It's easier to belay and walk back with. The only problem with that is I'm walking farther away from the ladder and I'm increasing this angle. What's the tendency to happen to the tip? The tip's going to want to get pulled actually away from the building. So if I have extra personnel, then I want to tip load the ladder. I want to put somebody up there to counterbalance it, to hold it against the building. Plus they can help feed the system down to the firefighter inside. So remember, if we're staying tight, that's fine. You got to go hand over hand. If you go farther out, try to counterbalance the ladder. When we're hooking up, you'll see the first point is this is going to be at the base of the windowsill. The extension ladder gets to the base of the windowsill, or an aerial or a tower ladder, to make entry for the first rescuer. The advantage of the F.E.P.S, it only puts one rescuer on the inside. Less firefighters to have to get out in an emergency, less congestion on the inside. Once that firefighter's inside, determines that the F.E.P.S will be beneficial. They call for F.E.P.S. These firefighters are going to pull the ladder away and extend it to the highest point possible. At minimum, at the very minimum, you want to get the tip of the ladder 3 to 5 feet above the top plate of the window. The higher though, the better, because then we can just pull the firefighter straight out and lower them down. I want to give you a close-up of this so you understand how we hook in on the outside of the ladder. It changes if we're on the inside, but if we're working on the outside, this is how we do it. If I think that this top rung is my target for my top carabiner, I'm going to count down from there. 1, 2, 3. It's very simple. This is where this is the highest rung I'm going to clip into. So this is 1, 2, and then 3. I go over it. So here's my third. So I take the entire system, and this might be a little tough for you to see, but I look at my change of direction pulley. This is essential when you're operating on the outside of the ladder, that you want the rope leading to the bag to be on the outside of that change of direction pulley. So top, that's 2, that's 3. I come over the third rung. I'm going to clip into the top with my terminal end. Lock off, it says top rung. I take my change of direction, unfasten the release. I come in to my second rung. I lock off. Now, can you see this angle pretty decent? If I got a wide angle, you can see how the friction is reduced as I pull out. But as I do that, the ladder can start to walk out, and that's why it's important to have the counterbalance. Here's the other drawback. By hooking to the very most top rung, I'm right at the tip. Remember, there's 14 inches between rungs, 14 inches between rungs. If I go to the very top, my system is still tight to the building. So this might give me my maximum pull because I want to get the system as high up as possible, but I'm going to have the victim really close to the building. If that is an issue for you, if you think that's going to be an issue, especially if the ladder is very vertical, then you do not want to attach it to the top rung. In that case, what I'm going to do is, this would be my target top rung. That's my target one, then I count down from there. So if this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, I bring my system over. Again, and if you're good, you can multitask with these. Now, it's hard to see from probably your angle, but I have another at least foot of distance here away from the building. So if the ladder's more vertical, it gives me more clearance when I pull the victim out and then lower them down to the ground. The question may come up to play though, I don't have that distance away from the building to pull, right? So I can't just grab the rope, which is going to be safer, and this is what the last firefighter can do. It's called a back belay, friction belay. It's a lot easier to hold on to it, and then you're using your body weight versus your hand grip to walk back. Just make sure you got other firefighters and you're not going to trip on the rope. So there's an element of danger to that, but it gives you a better grip on the rope. I can't do that. I'm going to stay more vertical. Here's what you can do. Instead of coming from the outside down, and I'm going to come on your side, Rosie, so you can see this. I can work to the side. I'm not going to ever want to be directly underneath the ladder, but here, So I'm walking the system up as I'm climbing the ladder. I'm walking the system on the outside of one of the beams or rails. I clip in. Now you can see that I got more of a downward angle, but then I'm going to have to go hand over hand. But you see how these ropes become parallel? When the ropes start to become parallel on a change of direction pulley, you multiply the load. So you're creating more stress on the rungs. That's one of the reasons why we try to share them. And this is just, remember, 1, 2 variations of deployment of this type of system. There's all sorts of others without using the extra pulleys and just wrapping rungs and using rungs as friction. So this is just our setup. Understand that there's other ones out there. So remember, the rungs are rated at 1,000 pounds. So we get some of those things that we have to keep in mind. We don't want to overcomplicate the system though with additional webbing and all sorts of load sharing. This is a life to death situation. We got to rock and roll.